The Jimmy Olsen Radio Network.
Dimension, a measurable extent of some kind, such as length, breadth, depth, or height. An aspect or feature of a situation, problem, or thing. Fear, an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. Knowledge, facts, information, and skills acquired by a person through experience or education, the theoretical or practical understanding of a subject, awareness of familiarity gained by experience of a fact or situation. Imagination, the faculty or action of forming new ideas, or images or concepts or external objects not present to the senses. The ability of the mind to be creative or resourceful, the part of the mind that imagines things. A dimension, as vast as space and is as timeless as infinity, between light and dark, somewhere in the middle of science and superstition, lying between fear and knowledge, the dimension of imagination.
Spinal adjustments provided by Dr. Chad Rolfson. The Spinal Tuning Chiropractic Center is a Des Moines area low flat fee per month unlimited chiropractic care practice. When life happens, just adjust. Schedule today at spinaltuning.com.
Barbecue provided by Kenny's Rib Wagon, catering ribs for your pleasure and serving daily at Plaza Pub, 62nd and Douglas in Des Moines, across from Merle Hay Mall. Find Kenny's Rib Wagon on Facebook. Welcome to Bible Story Time. Samson as a judge, Judges 13:1 through 16:31. The Israelites sinned against the Lord again, and he let the Philistines rule them for 40 years. At that time, there was a man named Mona, from the town of Zorah. He was a member of the tribe of Dan. His wife had never been able to have children. The Lord's angel appeared to her and said, "You have never been able to have children, but you will soon be pregnant and have a son. But be sure not to drink any wine or beer or eat any forbidden food. And after your son is born, you must never cut his hair, because from the day of his birth, he will be dedicated to God as a Nazirite. He will begin the work of rescuing Israel from the Philistines." The woman went and told her husband, "A man of God has come to me and looked as frightening as an angel of God. I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he did tell me that I would become pregnant and have a son. He told me not to drink any wine or beer or eat any forbidden food, because the boy is dedicated to God as a Nazirite as long as he lives." Then Mona prayed to the Lord, "Please, Lord, let the man of God that you sent come back to us and tell us what we must do with the boy when he is born." God said what Manoah asked, and his angel came back to the woman while she was sitting in the field. Her husband Manoah was not with her, so she ran at once and told him, "Look, the man who came to me the other day has appeared to me again." Manoah got up and followed his wife. He went to the man and asked, "Are you the man who talked to my wife?" "Yes," he answered. Then Mona said, "Now then, when your words come true, what must the boy do? What kind of life must he lead?" The Lord's angel answered, "Your wife must be sure to do everything that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine. She must not drink any wine or beer or eat any forbidden food. She must do everything that I have told her." Not knowing that it was the Lord's angel, Manoah said to him, "Please do not go yet. Let us cook a young goat for you." But the angel said, "If I do stay, I will not eat your food. But if you want to prepare it, burn it as an offering to the Lord." Manoah replied, "Tell us your name, so that we can honor you when your words come true." The angel asked, "Why do you want to know my name?" "It is a name of wonder." So Manoah took a young goat, some grain, and offered them on the rock altar to the Lord, who works wonders. While the flames were going up from the altar, Manoah and his wife saw the Lord's angel go up toward heaven in the flames. Manoah realized then that the man had been the Lord's angel, and he and his wife threw themselves face down on the ground. They never saw the angel again. Manoah said to his wife, "We are sure to die because we have seen God." But his wife answered, "If the Lord had wanted to kill us, he would not have accepted our offerings. He would have not shown us all this or told us such things at this time." The woman gave birth to a son, named him Samson. The child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Lord's power began to strengthen him while he was between Zorah and Eshtaol in the camp of Dan. One day Samson went down to Timnah, where he noticed a certain young Philistine woman. He went back home and told his father and mother, "There is a Philistine woman down at Timnah who caught my eye, caught my attention. Get her for me. I want to marry her." But his father and mother asked him, "Why do you have to go to those heathen Philistines to get a wife? Can't you find someone in our own clan among all our people?" But Samson told his father, "She is the one I want to get for me. I like her." His parents did not know that it was the Lord who was leading Samson to do this, for the Lord was looking for a chance to fight the Philistines. At this time, the Philistines were ruling Israel. So Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother. As they were going through the vineyards there, he heard a young lion roaring. Suddenly, the power of the Lord made Samson strong, and he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as if it were a young goat. But he did not tell his parents what he had done. Then he went and talked to the young woman, and he liked her. A few days later, Samson went back to marry her. On the way, he left the road to look at the lion he had killed, and he was surprised to find a swarm of bees and some honey inside the dead body. He scraped the honey out with his hands and ate it as he was walking along. Then he went to his father and mother and gave them some. They ate it, but Samson did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the dead body of a lion. His father went to the woman's house, and Samson gave a banquet there. This was a custom among the young men when the Philistines saw him. They sent 30 young men to stay with him. Samson said to them, "Let me tell you a riddle. I'll bet each one of you, a piece of fine linen and a change of fine clothes, that you cannot tell me its meaning before the 7 days of the wedding feast are over." Tell us your riddle," they said. "Let's hear it." Well, he said, "Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet." 3 days later, they still had not figured out what the riddle meant. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, "Trick your husband into telling us what the riddle means. If you do not, we will set the fire to your father's house and burn you with it. You two invited us so that you could rob us, didn't you?" So Samson's wife went to him in tears and said, "You do not love me. You just hate me. You told my friends a riddle and did not tell me what it means." He said, "Look, I haven't even told my father and mother. Why should I tell you?" She cried about it for the whole 7 days of the feast. But on the 7th day, he told her what the riddle meant, for she nagged him about it so. Then she told the Philistines. So on the 7th day, before Samson went into the bedroom, the men of the city said to him, "What could be sweeter than honey? What could be stronger than a lion?" Samson replied, "If you hadn't been plowing with my cow, you wouldn't know the answer now. Suddenly, the power of the Lord made him strong, and he went down to Ashkelon, where he killed 30 men, stripped them, and gave their fine clothes to the men who have solved the riddle. After that, he went back home, furious about what had happened, and his wife was given to the man that had been his best man at the wedding. Sometime later, Samson went to visit his wife during the wheat harvest and took her a young goat. He told her father, "I want to go to my wife's room." But he wouldn't let him go in. He told Samson, "I really thought that you hated her, so I gave her to your friend. But her younger sister is prettier anyway. You can have her instead." Samson said, "This time I'm not going to be responsible for what I do to the Philistines." So he went and caught 300 foxes, 2 at a time, tied their tails together and put torches in the knots. Then he set fire to the torches and turned the foxes loose in the Philistine wheat fields. In this way, he burned up not only the wheat that had been harvested, but also the wheat that was still in the fields. The olive orchards were also burned. When the Philistines asked who had done this, they learned that Samson had done it because his father-in-law, a man from Timnah, had given Samson's wife to his friend of Samson's. So the Philistines went and burned the woman to death and burned down her father's house. Samson told them, "So this is how you act. I swear that I will not stop until I pay you back." He attacked them fiercely and killed many of them. Then he went and stayed in a cave in the cliff at Etam. The Philistines came and camped in Judah and attacked the town of Lehi. The men of Judah asked them, "Why are you attacking us?" They answered, "We came to take Samson prisoner and to treat him as he treated us." So these 300 men of Judah went to the cave in the cliff of Etam and said to Samson, "Don't you know what the Philistine, our rulers, are? What you have done to us?" He answered, "I did to them just what they did to me." They told him, "We have come over here to tie you up so we can hand you over to them." Samson said, "Give me your word that you will not kill me yourselves." "All right," they said. "We are only going to tie you up and hand you over to them. We will not kill you." So they tied him up with 2 new ropes and brought him back from the cliff. When he got to Lehi, the Philistines came running toward him, shouting at him. Suddenly the power of the Lord made him strong, and he broke the ropes around his arms and his hands as if they were burnt thread. Then he found a jawbone of a donkey that had recently died. He reached down, picked it up, and killed 1,000 men with it. So Samson sang, "With the jawbone of an ass I killed 1,000 men. With the jawbone of an ass I piled them up in piles." After that, he threw the jawbone away. The place where this happened was named Ramath Lehi. Then Samson became very thirsty. So he called to the Lord and said, "You gave me this great victory. Now I am going to die of thirst and be captured by the heathen Philistines." Then God opened a hollow place on the ground there at Lehi, and water came out of it. Samson drank it and began to feel much better. So the spring was named Hakor. It is still there at Lehi. Samson led Israel for 20 years while the Philistines ruled the land. One day Samson went to the Philistine city of Gaza, where he met a prostitute and went to bed with her. The people of Gaza found out that Samson was there, so they surrounded the place and waited for him all night long at the city gate. They were quiet all night, thinking to themselves, "We'll wait until daybreak, and then we will kill him." But Samson stayed in bed only until midnight, and then he got up and took hold of the city gate and pulled it up. Doors, posts, lock, and all. He put them on his shoulders and carried them far off to the top of the hill overlooking Hebron. After this, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah, who lived in Sorek Valley. The 5 Philistine kings went to her and said, "Trick Samson into telling you why he is so strong and how we can overpower him. Tie him up and make him helpless. Each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver." So Delilah said to Samson, "Please tell me what makes you so strong. If someone wanted to tie you up and make you helpless, how could he do it?" Samson answered, "If you tie me up with 7 new bowstrings that are not dried out, I'll be as weak as anybody else." So the Philistine kings brought Delilah 7 new bowstrings that were not dried out, and she tied Samson up. She had some men waiting in the other room, so she shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are coming." But he snapped the bowstrings just as if the threads break were fire torches of it. So they still do not know the secret of his strength. Delilah told Samson, "Look, you've been making a fool of me and not telling me the truth. Please tell me how someone could tie you up." He told her, "If they tie me with new ropes that have never been used, I'll be as weak as anybody else." So Delilah got some new ropes and tied him up, then shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are coming." The men were waiting in the other room, but he snapped the ropes off his arms like thread. Delilah said to Samson, "You are still making a fool of me and not telling me the truth. Tell me how someone could tie you up." He told her, "If you weave my 7 locks of hair into a loom and make it tight with a peg, I'll be as weak as anybody else." Delilah then lulled him to sleep, took his 7 locks of hair, and wove them into a loom. She made it tight with a peg and shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are coming." But he woke up and pulled his hair loose from the loom. So she said to him, "How can you say you love me when you do not mean it? You have made a fool of me 3 times and still have not told me what makes you strong." She kept on asking him day after day. He got so sick and tired of her bothering him about it that he finally told her the truth. "My hair has never been cut," he said. "I have been dedicated to God as a Nazirite from the time I was born. If my hair were cut, I would lose my strength and be as weak as anybody else." When Delilah realized that he had told her the truth, she sent a message to the Philistine kings and said, "Come back one more time. He has told me the truth." Then they came and brought the money with them. Delilah lulled Samson to sleep in her lap, and then called a man who cut Samson's 7 locks of hair. Then she began to torment him, for he had lost his strength. Then she shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are coming." He woke up and thought, "I'll get loose and go free, as always." He did not know what the Lord had left him. The Philistines captured him and put out his eyes. They took him to Gaza, chained him with a bronze chains, and put him to work grinding at the mill in the prison. But his hair started growing back. The Philistine kings met together to celebrate and offer a great sacrifice to their god Dagon. They sang, "Our God has given us victory over our enemy Samson." They were enjoying themselves, and so they call Samson. And let's make him entertain us. When they brought Samson out of the prison, they made him entertain them and made him stand between the columns. When the people saw him, they sang praise to their God. "Our God has given us victory over our enemy who devastated our land and killed so many of us." Samson said to the boy who was leading him by the hand, "Let me touch the columns that you have. Hold up the building. I want to lean on them." Well, the building was crowded with men and women. All 5 Philistine kings were there. And there were about 3,000 men and women on the roof, watching Samson entertain them. Then Samson prayed, "Sovereign Lord, please remember me. Please, God, give me my strength just this one time more, so that with this one blow, I can get even with the Philistines for putting out my 2 eyes." So Samson took hold of the 2 middle columns holding up the building, putting one hand on each column, and pushed against them and shouted, "Let me die with the Philistines." He pushed with all his might, and the building fell down on the 5 kings and everyone else. Samson killed more people at his death than he had killed during his life. His brothers and the rest of his family came down to get his body. They took him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Manoah. He had been Israel's leader for 20 years. Thank you for listening to Bible Storytime. If you enjoyed that story, share it on social media, Facebook and Twitter. You can also find me on Facebook and Twitter at My Buddy Jimmy, or on YouTube at My Buddy Jimmy 101.
The Jimmy Olsen Radio Network.